for the Ron and Brian podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
All right. Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock, and it is time for episode 280 of the Ron and Brian podcast. Brian, how are you this week, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful, Ron. I am doing absolutely wonderful. Right now, trying to figure out why my laptop is not connected to power. Pretty sure I had that all set up before I sat down. Other than that, Ron, I'm going to tell you something. This is Sunday night. It is the Sunday before Thanksgiving, which is always a special festive time. I know you are a big fan of Thanksgiving. Over the past 29 years that we have been doing this show, you have regaled us with so many different stories of your special not Halloween. We know Halloween's important to you. It's your anniversary, but also Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It is the most specialist of holidays for you. And you have, over the years, I know you don't want me to say this, but the very fact that you and your wife open up your home on Thanksgiving to a dozen homeless people from Kensington, Philadelphia, you prepare them a feast, you feed them, you allow them to do their fentanyl in your downstairs bathroom. Don't let them go upstairs. We know that, they're limited downstairs. But it's just such a great gesture. You and Mrs. Ron, I just think are saints on this earth. And we all could learn a lot from you guys.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, and I know you look forward to Thanksgiving, having food brought into you that you ensure is only purchased from white male-dominated businesses, and then you stare down from your ivory tower at people as you eat. So we all celebrate Thanksgiving in our own way,
and it's very important that we all remember. That Thanksgiving is just, it's the greatest holiday of the year.
All right. Well, let's get things right into it in this pre-Thanksgiving show. It's time for
Drink of the Week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud. Drink of the Week.
Plancha.
Who's? Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week.
Brian, what did you bring to the show to drink this week?
Oh, I know you were expecting me to bring a beer.
No, always.
It's not
maybe
that
another
kind of
Oktoberfest, maybe something from London again. No, not where you're going.
No. I'm bringing something from Scotland. Okay, I'm talking about the Singleton. 18-year. Look at this. Look at that. That is sublimely smooth, Ron. Sublimely smooth. Okay. And what I'm going to say to you is this. You're looking at right now, you're looking at me. You're looking at the Singleton. It is from the Speyside, possibly pronounced correctly, region of Scotland. And their 18-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey, Ron, is matured in a high proportion of American oak casks with a single small portion of European oak casks to balance the liquid. The result is an easy-to-enjoy single malt with dried fruit aromas, a rich, complex palate, and a soft, nutty finish. Just like I like my sailors, and a soft, nutty finish. Pairs well with a fire, maybe a podcast, and some good friends. The nose, dry, rich, complex, with a mild nose feel, backed by black pepper and mature notes of a cigar box.
Wow. That is complex, to say the least.
The finish, what am I going to be expecting here? Soft, dry, rounded. Adding water allows a pleasant, nutty spiciness to come through, recalling the cigar box found on the nose. Well, there's a cooling aftertaste. Medium to full body. This is coming in at 4.0 ABV. That's right, people. The Singleton Sublimely Smooth 18-year single malt Scotch whiskey.
Take a sip, Brian. I mean, I can't imagine it is anything but delicious, but tell the listeners and the viewers how it is.
Ooh, I haven't had a good scotch in a while. It's definitely complex.
Okay.
I remember that time where I broke into the cigar factory and I just stuck my nose right into every cigar box I could find. I'm smelling that now. There is a nutty spiciness. I'm not going to lie. The water absolutely is allowing me to drink this.
Okay.
I'm happy with this.
All right. Good. Well, if you're happy, as always, I'm happy, and everybody else out there's happy.
Ron,
Yes. Thought you never.
what are you drinking?
So, we skip right over Thanksgiving, drink wise. I don't think there's really any good Thanksgiving based beers. Do you know of any? Like, I don't know that I
No.
would necessarily call like a pumpkin pie based beer. Like Lancaster Brewing makes a pumpkin pie beer, but I don't know that I consider that like a Thanksgiving beer. Well, we are going straight to Christmas, Brian, with the Victory Merry Monkey and their Golden Monkey series. This is a Belgian style ale with cranberry, orange peel, cinnamon, and nutmeg. Is it a double-digit ABV, Brian? Why, yes, it is. It clocks in at 10%. This is the best way to get nice and toasty. I think the other week I had done some Mad Elf. This is my other, one of my other favorite Christmas beers, Victory Merry Monkey.
He takes a sip. Let's see. Can we see it? Let's see what it looks like in the glass.
It's got. So it's not bad.
It's very opaque.
It's subtle. Opaque. It's a lot more subtle than Mad Elf is. Even though it's a high alcohol content, you don't taste a lot of alcohol in the beer. It's a very smooth drink.
Keep sipping, Daddy.
Yep, good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Ay, papi.
Chulo.
So that's it. That's our pre-Thanksgiving drink of the week. You know what that means, Brian? It's time for beef of the week.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what's bothering you this week? Your microphone being off. That's bothersome. I'm not hearing any sound at the moment.
How about now?
Now we do.
Can
now
you hear me?
I think your computer microphone is on now.
You know what, Ron? What is your beef of the week?
Okay.
While I get out of this, and then I'm going to jump right back in. You can just, you know what? Don't do it. Don't tell me your beef of the week. Stall for about.
So Brian is having a number of technological issues this evening. His power cord was unplugged. His microphone is unplugged. So he's going to try and get it fixed and come right back in. And then we will get to beef of the week because I was traveling again this week, traveling for work. And as it always happens, as you longtime listeners and viewers know, travel anywhere is a pain in the ass. And it was very much so again this week. And that gives me my beef of the week. And on cue, Brian is back in the room. Can we hear you now, Brian?
Testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Testing.
You're good. So, Brian,
okay. Ron, what's your beef of the week?
My beef this week is people on airplanes who stand in the aisle after the plane lands when it is unnecessary. I'm going to tell you.
Are we talking about people that jump in to get their luggage, or people just looking to stand up?
People just looking to stand up. Because here's the situation: I was flying back from Dallas Wednesday night, I think it was, full flight. Delayed an hour and a half, whatever. And so, we get on the plane, and I've got to carry on because we're only down there for a night. And again, the bigger issue is planes can assign seats. For some reason, they don't bother assigning overhead bins either. They just designed overhead bins to hold everybody's overheads. So anyway, I get to my row, my seat, and there's no overhead bins available. So I have to go back like 5 or 6 rows and find an empty overhead bin. In the meantime, a number of people sitting in my area have to do the same thing, is go back there.
Sure.
So when the plane lands, those of us who have luggage back there, obviously we want to get up, we want to get back there, get our bags, so we're not, trying to go against the flow of traffic. And we were thwarted by people literally just getting up and just standing in the aisle. And they would stare at you, and I'd be like, we're trying to get our bags back there. And they would literally just, and this guy even had his bag. Like, it wasn't even like he needed to get his bag out somewhere. He's literally standing in the aisle with his roller bag right in front of him, blocking everybody. So now we've got to pass luggage back and forth like some, I don't even know what you refer to it as, but it was very frustrating, and I hate flying.
What were you doing on a plane? First off, more importantly, what airline were you flying?
Flying American.
Okay. Were you able to ascertain why the space for your luggage was taken by somebody else? Like, who took it?
I have no idea. I could not tell you. I don't know. Again, I think people who sit in the back sometimes, as they board, just throw their bags up there, and so that they can grab them on the way out. But I have no idea. And then you have some people that have a ridiculous number of carry-ons.
Sure. We know that, you are allowed one bag to put up and a backpack or a purse, whatnot, but you see people bringing on full-size suitcases practically. Yeah. I'm actually in favor of just banning carry-on luggage, like just sealing up those spaces, maybe moving the seats higher up because you're not losing any, because you're now making that space available, and then having more space in the cargo hold. Because I think that the fighting for above head luggage space just is an unnecessary aggravant at this point.
And the other thing that's annoying too, it didn't happen on this flight, but I've seen it happen more. Like there are times when you're boarding your flight and they're like, all right, we know the overhead bin is going to be full. If you're boarding like group 7 or later, we're going to tag your bag. It'll go in the under of the plane. You'll get it back when you get off the plane. Now they don't seem to do that anymore. If they have to do that, like you have to go all the way to baggage to get your bag back. And that's kind of a pain in the ass. Like when you're already landing an hour and a half, 2 hours late at night, you just want to be able to get your bag and go. Hop in an Uber, a Lyft, maybe a taxi. Who knows?
Did you say Uber?
Uber.
I believe that Pennsylvania accent just started to rise.
Uber.
The Uber.
You can't eat a hoagie in your Uber.
Uber.
Right.
Buddha ice.
What's bothering you this week?
Oh, I'm going to say this. I know everybody's expecting me to complain about home renovations. No, not at all. Not complaining. Okay. A lot of people are going to complain about how much stuff my lady and I have. Nope. Not complaining about that either. That is not a complaint of mine.
Okay.
My actual complaint, it's going to be quick. It's going to be small. It is the group of 3 that were waiting to enter my apartment building yesterday. I was returning from a quick morning jaunt over to Paris Baguette to pick up some pain du chocolat. And as I was returning, I walked inside the vestibule and saw 3 people. Okay. 1 male, 2 females. They had been there long enough that one of the females had actually sat down on a bench. Apparently, and the system that we have in my building is such that there's no keys. When you show up as a guest, a visitor, whatnot, you, instead of dialing to the apartment above you, you enter a 3-digit code for the unit you're looking for, and you automatically get routed to a phone number. The system is set up so that it goes to a phone number, and somebody, some people use cell phones or whatnot. You using the answering the phone, you hit a code, which I'm not going to share, and that allows the front door to be opened. So these 3 people, obviously, whomever they were going to visit was not answering the phone, and they were just standing there waiting. So I show up, and you know me, I'm Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky. I'm showing up. I'm trying to make nice with everyone. Sure. I wish them a good morning. I say hello. I use my fob to unlock the door. I open it. I let the 3 of them walk by first. Even the woman that was sitting on the bench. She was like, "Oh," I said, "Don't rush." I said, "Don't rush." I said, "It's Saturday. We're all taking our time today." We get in. They go to the elevator, press the button. I walked, I'm going to say 10 paces to my left to get my mail. I hadn't picked up mail on Friday, so I was like, I'm going to get my mail now. I turn after closing my mailbox, and these fuckers had gotten in the elevator and left without me. Did not have the absolute decency to say, hey, are you taking the elevator? We're going to hold it for you as a thank you for letting us into the building.
I think clearly they were in a rush to commit whatever crime they were there that you allowed them into your building for. I don't know if it was murder. I don't know if it was theft. I don't know exactly what it was, but
Ron, are you insinuating that Indian people commit crimes? Because
you did not mention any ethnicity, Brian. I'm just saying.
How dare you, Ron, and say that this has something to do with the Indian people?
Exactly. Ali, 100%. Ali says, have you never seen a single episode of Law and Order? Dun dun. How are you going to let strangers into your building?
It's how I roll. The way I see it is this.
And Johanna hits it. Brian is a security threat. He's been a threat to this podcast. He's now a security threat to his neighbors.
Listen, people, I'm not a threat to anything. I'm your fucking champ right here. Woo, baby. Oh, by the way, report me to the board. How dare you, JoJo? How dare you?
Yes, definitely. Report him to the board. When you start campaigning for that position, that's going to come back to haunt you.
That'll be in a year. Oh, by the way, just, have I commented how I've been trying to warm up my community to my presence in the building?
You've mentioned it, that you've tried to be less Brian, I guess the way is you put it.
So earlier this week we had our board election, and it seemed as if not enough people submitted their votes, so that we did not have a quorum. Do you understand the concept of a quorum, Ron?
I do understand.
There was no quorum. There was no quorum here. So they agreed that they were going to push back the date of the election, and they were going to try and figure out how to get more votes. So someone, I'm not claiming that it's me, went on Facebook, went into the building's Facebook group and posted the following. Hold on, I want to wet my beak right before I do this.
All right, a little sip from that Ron and Brian one.
To my fellow residents, please exercise your vote to the open positions on the board of directors. I am not running, so this isn't a plea for support. We all live here and want our community to be the best it can. We have a moment now to speak our voice and vote for whomever we feel will represent us the best during their upcoming term. The board has extended the deadline to Thursday, December 7th at 8 p.m. Please vote. Thank you.
That is, listen, you are exercising your civic rights, and kudos to you.
I just want people to vote. That's all. That's all that matters to me, Ron.
Makes sense.
Do you have a quorum in your home? Question: When do you have a board of directors? When you meet with your Mrs. Ron once a quarter, go over the finances of the property, and
I feel there's kind of a oligarchy here in the house. I wouldn't quite call it a dictatorship, but I've yet to be able to break through the glass ceiling and have my voice heard within this household.
Was your voice heard when you went into Gabe's yesterday?
First off, can you hear my refrigerator behind me?
No.
Let me see. Hold on a second. I'm just going to try.
Look at this. God damn it. Another Oh, yeah. I hear a little bit. I hear a little hum. Why? Hello?
Like it was literally going like, nee. All right. It shut off now. Anyway.
I know. I've stayed over your house a couple times. I thought that noise was coming from your bed.
Oh, no, never. Gabe's. You want to talk about Gabe's?
Yeah, I heard a rumor that you went to the lowest of the rung for home accessories.
Yeah, I'm not, and again, my wife was like, a while back was like, oh, we need to go to Gabe's. I hear you can find just random like good stuff at Gabe's. Like it's like a clearance type place. Like if it doesn't sell at Home Goods, it makes its way to Gabe's apparently.
Sure.
Ironically, headquartered in Morgantown, West Virginia. A little bit of trivia for you there. So Apparently there is a Gabe's in near us, and we ended up stopping there after we went to TJ Maxx. We were gonna try to go to Bed Bath & Beyond. There just wasn't enough time, Brian.
Wasn't enough time.
But went to Gabe's, and when I tell you, like, it was the cheapest crap I've ever seen. Like, when you I think they're big on Carhartt, that clothing brand. But then everything else is like these random brand names that I'm just like, not familiar with. They had Wrangler jeans. Like, that was like they're selling Wrangler jeans for $50, which I think is a crime against humanity.
That seems steep for Wrangler.
Oh, exactly. So I walked around the store a couple times and I was just like, I don't see anything here. And then I saw my wife and I'm like, this is all crap. And she's like, you got to look for the diamond in the rough. I'm like, I see a lot of rough. I don't see any diamonds.
You don't think that she took that same approach when she first started dating you?
That's very true. Very true. Janelle asked, worse than Dollar Tree. I would call it the equivalent of a Dollar Tree. It had, like, for kitchen and home stuff, it had Dollar Tree quality product and then just clothing. And a lot of scrubs. Apparently, I guess maybe a lot of nurses shop there because there was a ton of scrubs.
Don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy who can't get no love from me. Hanging on the passenger side.
Which, Brian, I was shocked. I did not get any.
What?
I didn't get any photos of you at a Home Goods, a Home Depot, a Home Sense, an At Home. None of those home stores I didn't see you at this weekend.
We were cleaning and unpacking. We have exited phase 1 of the home renovations.
Wow.
There's still punch lists. There's still punch list stuff. But this weekend we did some, when I say we, I'm using a very liberal interpretation of the term.
Loose definition of that word.
We cleaned and started unpacking. Basically, everything in the kitchen needed to be rewashed. All the clothes were that have been sitting in boxes and whatnot had to be redone. So there is our dishwasher has been running nonstop. Our laundry equipment nonstop, but we're getting there. We actually threw out 5 boxes today of clothing that we had. So we're making
5 boxes of clothing. I thought you maybe just threw out 5 empty boxes.
Oh yeah, we emptied the boxes. Oh no. Boxes full of clothing that we were able to put in closets. So I might be able to dress like a normal human being tomorrow. We'll see.
I mean, will we ever get an invitation to the place anytime soon? This year, will we be able to visit your place this year?
I'm expecting that by Christmas, this place will be visit worthy.
All right.
Now the question is, will you be willing to come up?
We'll see.
Make the trip. We haven't yet. We'll have the extra bedroom. You'll be able to sleep.
That's all we're waiting on. We're just waiting on a bed. I mean, preferably a king, but if you get a queen, that's fine. We can.
There is a queen. There is a queen bed already in that room. The real question is, where am I going to put the camera?
I think you've got time. You've got a month or so to figure that part out.
You know what? We don't have a month for.
I don't know. What's that?
Locks of the week.
Locks of the week. You need to give me a little bit more heads up so that I can do this.
Locks.
Brian, listen, I love you, but even I am impressed beyond love for your 2-0 week again last week. Bringing you up to 22-0. You looked at Baltimore -3 versus Cincinnati. You were like, this is going to be a blowout. And you agreed. Baltimore wins 34-20. Washington was -8 against the Giants. You were like, you know what? I like this new young quarterback. I like this new young Paisan on the Giants. I think he's going to have the game of his young life. And you were correct. The Giants break out of their funk and win 31-19. How do you do it, Brian? How did you pick that one?
Listen, it just comes to me. Quite often I am laying in bed sleeping, deep sleep, 2 a.m., Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning, and I just wake up, jolt, immediately. I keep a notepad on the end table right next to the bed. And
Smart.
immediately I just, I write down the two teams that I'm thinking about in that moment. And this week it was Baltimore and it was the Giants. But, if I'm going to sit here and pretend to accept any type of accolades, I really have to direct the camera in your direction and say, congratulations to you for going 2-0 this week. You are also now 22-0. I don't know how you do it. It is, I think, something that the Smithsonian should be interested in. Your picks this week, you saw Houston laying 4.5 versus the Cardinals. You said, give me Texans. They win by 5. Just slicing the garlic
That was a close
so
one.
thin.
That one worried me a bit.
No, you had no reason to worry, Ron. Lions -8 over the Bears. You said, listen, we love the Lions, but not that much. Lions only win by 5. You were so smart taking the points in the Bears. Ron, you went 2-0. How on earth do you just keep up this pace?
To be honest, I will, if it's a tough week and I'm having a hard time making a decision, I'll get a paper bag, I will get a can of spray paint, and I will huff paint. And that helps clear my head, and it allows me the clarity I need to make these winning picks, Brian. And those winning picks for next weekend, Brian, I've got Dallas on Turkey Day -9.5 versus Washington, and the Eagles -3.5 versus Buffalo. Who do you like next week, Brian?
I'm, with quarterback Joe Burrow out for the rest of the season, I think the Bengals are less of a threat. They're laying 5 against the Steelers. I say take those points. Steelers will, I think, win the whole game. Also, the Jets are turning out to be one of the worst teams I have ever seen, worse than the Giants, in fact. They're playing the Dolphins, getting 6.5. Fuck the Jets. I say Dolphins all the way. That's my week 12 predictions.
All right, those are the locks of the week. In the meantime, Brian, we have our favorite stories that we like to make sure don't fall through the cracks, that we make sure we get to. Sure. Our stories of the week. Brian, what is your story of the week this week?
I'm going to keep this just nice and easy. Listen, we all understand that things in New York are difficult. People are fleeing left and right. Myself and my lady, we are now on the west of the Hudson here in New Jersey, and the fine people, the fine legislatures, our governor, making it just so much more welcome here in the Garden State. Just this past week, regulators in our Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control confirmed that residents of New Jersey can now get beer and wine delivered right to their door using DoorDash and Instacart. That's right, Ron. All those suckers in New York are going to have to sit there and, put their shoes or sneakers, maybe a flip-flop, walk outside to go pick up beer or wine. Nah, not over here. Over here, thanks to the fine people in my government, we are able to just open up a phone on our app, and before you know it, somebody who is basically living off of the tips that I bestow upon them, they are going to leave their house, their car, whatnot, to pick up my beer and bring it to my door. And that, Ron, is my story of the week.
Now, I understand there has to be an adult present, and that they don't do delivery to hotels or other facilities, just to homes and residences at this point.
Listen, it's basically we are doing it the right way. We're doing it the safe way. We are ensuring that home delivery of alcohol is being done in a way where minors are not able to access it, where I believe convicted felons of domestic abuse have been banned from being able to order wine and beer home delivery. Right. This is, I believe, going to be the program that the rest of the country looks at and says, New Jersey did it first. New Jersey did it best. We love New Jersey.
All right. Well, we will see how that goes. Maybe on the next podcast, you can order alcohol during the podcast and see how that delivery works.
Oh my God, I'm writing that down right now. Ron, what is your story of the week?
So my story of the week, Brian, we are going all the way out to California for a middle schooler who was suspended for allegedly wearing blackface to a local football game. But a national civil rights group claims the boy was just wearing eye paint. So it's an eighth grader identified only as JA for privacy weekends. Here is a photo of him. He is wearing eye black like a lot of football players wear. And he attended the high school football game between La Jolla High School and Morse High School on October 13th, according to the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, which I'm not a huge fan of FIRE. They're kind of a conservative civil rights group, so I wouldn't call them quite a civil rights group.
Is it possible this kid? Hold on. Is it possible this kid has the vitiligo or whatever Michael Jackson had?
He does not. The boy's father said, quote, "We had a fun, great night without any trouble," claiming that a black security guard even encouraged his son to put on more face paint. But 1 week after the game, the principal at Merlin Middle School called the boy and his parents to a meeting to inform them that the student would face a 2-day suspension and be barred from attending any future athletic events. A disciplinary notice said J.A., quote, painted his face black at a football game and characterized the incident as an offensive comment intent to harm. Principal Jeff Luna also reportedly noted the face paint was offensive because Morse High School is largely black.
What are your thoughts on this?
So I am torn on this. If you look at the face paint he's wearing, you remember Jared Allen from the Minnesota Vikings used to wear a ridiculous amount of eye black like this. I think Lane Johnson on the Eagles. I mean, there's been a number of players that take the eye black and wear it almost like a war paint type situation.
You know who also used to wear a lot of this eye paint
I'm afraid to ask, but tell me.
Famed accountant Irv Rosenberg. He would show up to the IRS audits. Everybody would just be like, Irv, what are you going to do this time? And he would show up with the face paint on his face to just kind of, psych out the IRS auditors. When you knew, if you were an IRS auditor and you knew that Irv Rosenberg was walking in the room, just the look on his face and the design he had, obviously Star David on the forehead, you would absolutely know that you were not going to be able to find anything in those company books.
Anywho, so I'm torn because I think the kid is probably pretty innocent and doesn't know what's going on. I think the adults were probably like, let's see how much black we can put on this kid's face before we get thrown out of this game.
What's wrong? Why not over here, the nose? What's going on in that area? Why would they leave that little diamond untouched? He's like a diamond in the rough, if you would.
And I'm not sure why he's doing braces. Like he lives in a well enough off community that he can do Invisalign. Like why would they be archaic and do braces on this poor kid?
I believe it's because his priest likes it a little rough and likes it to get scraped.
All right, fair enough. So what's your take on this, Brian?
I'm going to say this. I don't understand the degree of paint that he's got on his face. It's unnecessary. But do I think that it is a logical step to automatically jump in and say that this is racism? I don't see it.
Okay, fair enough. I agree with you. I think the kid's pretty innocent. The adults, I would flip a coin on that as to whether they knew what they were doing or not.
My understanding is that's one of the reasons why his priest likes him so much, because he is so innocent.
Brian, I know you were upset to hear this, but one of your favorite former representatives before you moved out of New York, George Santos, has announced that he will not be running for re-election after a scathing House ethics report came out showing that he spent money on Botox and OnlyFans and paying off credit card bills, designer clothing. Defend your man.
Defend my man.
Yes.
Defend my man. Show him George Santos. It is, to me, just I believe that history will look back and really just judge the Republican Party that is in the House of Representatives right now for looking, turning a cheek, looking the other way at a member of their party who has been caught in just so many lies about his qualifications to be elected into the House of Representatives, that somehow was able to convince enough Republican voters in Long Island, and I believe a part of Queens, to put him into the House of Representatives. The fact that even after being elected, his lies and crimes have continued, as he, according to this ethics committee, continues to use public funds for his personal benefit. Not like everyone else in Congress is not also doing some type of violation. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But the very fact that, given an opportunity to expel him just about 2 weeks ago, the number of Republicans, people in his party, who sat there and said, well, we just don't want to take any action because, we believe the court case should happen. It's stunning, the lack of morality within the Republican Party, so long as somebody's willing to vote the way they want it. And coming from a party that claims to have the moral high ground, it's just an embarrassment.
Now, there are people saying that they're going to bring up another resolution in the House to vote Santos out. A number of Democrats and Republicans now hopping on that. Do you think? I mean, a lot of people previously, he got enough votes to stay in last time, with the Democrats that voted to keep him, saying that he hasn't had the chance for due process. Now that this ethics panel report has come out, that seems to have gone by the wayside. Do you think he survives another vote?
I hope not, but do I think he? I didn't think he was going to survive the first time.
Okay.
Now, do you have a list of some? Do you have a list of some of the ways that he was spending money incorrectly?
Let's see what we have here.
Skip to the point, Ron. Nobody really cares about the Hermes bags or the Louis Vuitton belts. We all are fascinated over the fact that it was deemed that George Santos was a subscriber to one of the websites on the internet that you and I most often talk about during our behind the paywall after dark episodes. George Santos apparently used campaign funds to fund a subscription on OnlyFans, people. And there is a young lady, shocker, a young lady, I believe her name is Layla Lewis, who has stepped forward and said that George Santos was a subscriber to her page, account, whatever you want to use, on OnlyFans. It looks like she is what I know you would like to describe as thick, THICC. I know that's the way you like to describe the women you're going after. And Layla claimed that not only did he subscribe to her account on OnlyFans, but he actually submitted a photo of his manhood for the explicit reason of asking her to rate his a photo of his genitals.
And now also a young man who is on the OnlyFans platform has come out and said that George Santos subscribed to his channel as well and did the same thing, sent the dick pic for a rating.
We've spoken about it quite often on After Dark, and I don't want to blur the line between the show and After Dark, because what we talk about during After Dark, for those fine Patreon subscribers who are willing to spend $5 a month or $10 to come in at the silver level, it is just wild. Now we kind of have an understanding of What kind of person is putting down their credit card number so that somebody can rate a picture of their penis? George Santos. Now we know who's spending money on OnlyFans. It's Ron and George Santos.
And it's a very easy transition to go from George Santos to drag queens as we go to one of our more popular sections of the show. But the drag queens are the problem. Republican Party obviously very upset about drag queens, drag brunches, drag queens doing readings at libraries, schools, and whatnot. So we are destined to find a drag queen involved with inappropriate relations with a child. And I think we finally have one this year, Brian. I'm going to put this picture up on the stage. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That is a woman. That is Allison Kranick, age 42. She is facing 4 counts of first-degree sexual assault and 5 counts of risk of injury to a child. She is a former Connecticut school employee, now accused of sexually assaulting an 11-year-old boy. Back in July and August, she was observed, quote, acting flirtatious with the boy in public, according to an affidavit supporting the women's arrest earlier this week. Lifeguards at Columbia Lake observed her acting inappropriate and reported it to the town recreation director. In interviews with the boy in question, he talked about an instance in August where lifeguards saw Kranick put her hand on his inner thigh and reported it to police. I don't even know. 11, Brian, 11-year-old boy.
And I'm sure that the Republicans and the conservatives in America are up in arms and immediately taking to the streets, taking to the church pulpits to defend our children in America from school employees.
I hear a lot of silence, Brian. I don't necessarily hear anything else. Let me look through the list. There has to be one here.
Try this next story here. We have in the document. I think this is a drag queen right here. I think this is proof. Nope.
No, this is Reagan Anderson, age 27. She is a South Carolina private Christian school teacher and mother of 2. She was arrested Wednesday for pressuring a teenage student into having sex and sending him naked pictures. She is facing 2 counts of sexual battery with a child 17 years of age. So apparently she began abusing the 17-year-old in October. The first assault reportedly took place in a private residence in Holly Hill, a small town 50 miles north of Charleston, followed by a second in the parking lot of a Pizza Hut in the nearby town of Santee.
Who hasn't gotten busy in the parking lot of a Pizza Hut?
Anderson also allegedly sent the teen nude photos on Snapchat. That Snapchat taking a lot of people down. Yes.
Question, Ron. When does she? How much does she charge for her OnlyFans?
I'm sure she will be on OnlyFans soon enough to probably raise bail. Her bail, which was set at $2,500, and she is ordered to wear a GPS monitor. She was swiftly fired from her teaching position.
And I'm sure that America's conservatives have taken to the streets to basically say that in addition to the drag queens being the problem, teachers now are the problem, and we need to protect children from teachers, right?
I mean, I haven't heard anybody come out and say that exactly as of yet.
Disappointed. Are there any other examples we can give where children are not safe in this world and people who are going after them? Drag queens, preferably. Fits our narrative. Drag queens are the problem.
Let's see. This isn't a teacher, Brian. This isn't a teacher. Let me take a look here. Oh, this is a drag queen. This is from Virginia. This is a former Franklin County Sheriff's Office employee, Justin Sigmund, who was found guilty for sexually abusing a young girl. He had been charged with abusive sexual conduct with a minor. He was on a cruise with his family when a witness reported seeing him molesting a girl under 10 years old. As the story apparently goes, he sexually molested his 9-year-old niece on a cruise with the rest of his family.
No.
Yes.
Fucking pervert. That's disgusting.
Yes. And Brian, you ask how Republicans respond, how the religious right responds. When he was initially arrested back in June of this year, there was a bunch of his fellow churchgoers that felt that he was such a good, upstanding citizen that they created a GoFundMe for him following his imprisonment that had raised a few $1,000s before. Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I said he abused his niece. He abused his 9-year-old daughter.
Oh my fucking God. And you're telling me the conservatives went out and raised money for his support?
There was a GoFundMe that raised a few $1,000s for his defense until GoFundMe realized what the campaign was for and took it down.
But the drag queens are the problem, Ron. These stories are not fitting the narrative that we want to put forth.
We need to find the narrative, Brian. We need to find it and fix it.
This is 2023. The narrative is that drag queens are the problem, that our children in America are not safe because drag queens are reading books to them. We have all these examples of drag queens reading books, and I'm not hearing any examples of drag queens molesting children. I've got teachers, I've got school employees. I'm not hearing any drag queens. What are we doing here?
We will keep searching for it. In the meantime, Brian, I have another question for you. What are you watching?
Oh, listen, I'm going to say this to you. I watched a lot of television for myself compared, for me, I watched a lot of television by comparison to other weeks. Starting off, this was a comedy special that is on YouTube that I've been meaning to watch for a while. Todd Barry, Domestic Short Hair. Todd Barry is probably one of the most driest comedians that's around. He makes Dave Hill seem full of exuberant life and energy. Very funny. I enjoyed it. You'll chuckle. You're not gonna, start crying laughing.
Right.
You turned me onto something. Shane Gillis's special
Shane Gillis
on Netflix.
special on Netflix.
I'm going to say this. I've seen Shane Gillis probably about 4 or 5 times in person. I always chalked him off as a frat boy, refusing to grow up, in terms of his style of comedy. I will say, since I last saw him, he has absolutely grown into a beast. This was a solid special on Netflix. It's not politically correct, but but at the same time, there's nothing mean-spirited about any of his humor. He has a
and that's what I was going to say. It's like he has this ability, and to your point, he's a lot more polished. The material is a lot more solid than some of his earlier specials, but he is able to do what is now considered politically incorrect. But he's able to do it with enough of a sense of humor and enough self-deprecation that it doesn't come across as offensive.
But there's also a sense of optimism, in terms of it's not he has a whole bit on Down syndrome. And, where he is absolutely making fun of people with Down syndrome. But he's also saying that there are aspects to people who have Down syndrome that you shouldn't necessarily look at and mock. He says that, the happiest people he knows, he says, I've got people with Down syndrome in my family. He goes, the happiest people I know are the ones with Down syndrome. He goes, the rest of us, we're all taking anti-anxiety medication. We're crying that we're not, that we're depressed, that we're stressed out. He goes, the members of my family, he's like, they're loving life. They are absolutely loving every minute of life.
Nice.
You know, and I think, like you said, that's part of the maturing, is where I think a Shane Gillis maybe 5 years ago would have been just joking at Down syndrome.
What else are you watching, Brian? I mean, I watched the
I
Shane Gillis
watched.
special too, and I agree. It was a solid hour of comedy.
I thank you for turning me on to that, because I probably would have skipped it. I watched the first 4 episodes of the last season of The Crown. We have this is the year, this is the season, I believe it's season 6, where Princess Diana dies. So it is just a tearjerker. They released 4 episodes now. They are waiting till, I think it's December 14th, where they're going to be releasing the remainder of the season. It'll be part 2. But right now there are 4 episodes. Listen, if you have been watching The Crown from, season 1, it is all about the Queen. It is about her rise to the throne and how she navigated 75 years. This season, it's all about Princess Di. It's all about Lady Di. The Queen, nobody gives a fuck about her this season. It literally is window dressing. It's all about Lady Di. Not really loving it. Got to be honest with you. And then last but not least, Billy's mentioning it right down there. He knew what I was going to say. There's a documentary on HBO called Defending My Life. Rob Reiner, who, listen, everybody knows him from Different Strokes back in the 70s. However, he directed Spinal Tap, Princess Bride, and I also believe that he did the 1,000-Year-Old Man with Herbie Brooks. Wasn't it Herbie Brooks? Anywho,
maybe. Anyway,
yes. Anyway, but apparently one of his best friends in high school was the gentleman that we now know as Albert Brooks, born Albert Einstein. If you ever asked what kind of what kind of sense of humor his parents had, born Albert Einstein, changed his name professionally to Albert Brooks. Just literally one of the things you learn about it. I knew him as as an actor in Hollywood films. So much more about his comedy. He was a stand-up comedian, but he really kind of started this, I don't want to say alternative comedy, because that's not really the right term, but it really was the kind of comedy where it wasn't just, set up punchline. But it kind of made you think a little bit. There was a build up to the punchline in his performance art, but it was all very funny. Good stuff. Ron.
Yes.
Ron.
Yes, my friend.
Ron?
Yes.
What are you watching?
Well, we talked about watching the Shane Gillis stand-up. I also watched the new stand-up special on Netflix by Pete Holmes called I Am Not For Everyone. And I would agree with that. Are you a fan of Pete Holmes?
He had a show, I think stand-up or comedian or something like that on HBO, where it was about a rising comedian. I don't know his stand-up very well, but I really did like that show that he did on HBO.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I would say check it out. I would call him like an edgy Brian Regan is probably the best way to to describe him. But it's just very off the wall at times. But good stuff. I enjoyed that. I watched the rest of the Get Gotti documentary on Netflix, which, again, I don't think it really told anything new that we didn't already know about that story, but it was an interesting watch. But Brian, have you seen the previews for Exposed, the Ghost Train Fire, the docuseries on Netflix?
Hold on, I'm typing this in. Exposed, the what?
The Ghost Train Fire. So
hold on, what are we talking here?
So this is a 3-episode.
What are we talking?
This is a 3-episode docuseries about a tragedy that happened at a amusement park in Sydney, Australia, back in 1979 on a ride called the Ghost Train that caught fire. 7 people died, 6 kids, 1 adult. This one woman lost her entire family. Her husband and 2 kids were on the ride. And this is a This is a documentary series that they did in Australia back in 21. This is the first kind of international exposure this has gotten. And it talks about, like, the police initially said, this was an electrical fire, nothing more to see here. And so
crikey, it's just an electrical fire. Crikey.
So these documentary, so there was this Australian musician / artist that was tied to Luna Park that just kept investigating it for the rest of his life. He got to befriend this one kid who survived the ride. Like, literally, the ride operator pulled this kid off the ride right before he would have gone into where he would have been burned to death. And so they turn all this stuff over, all this information over to this documentary team. And I think you and I have discussed, like, one of the things about documentaries is you rarely see like a very neutral documentary. Like, every documentary you have has a story they want to tell. And like, you see these documentaries where they'll get like one very fringe person saying, "Oh, this is what I think happened." Not this documentary, Brian. They've got the receipts, as the kids would say. Like, they literally, and again, it almost becomes overkill. And I don't want to kind of spoil it, but you find out that it is not an electrical fire. You find there's a lot of corruption. There is police corruption. There's organized crime involvement. But they go to a level of detail that is like ridiculous. But it is it's fascinating, and it's each episode's about an hour and a half. I would highly recommend you watch that.
I will definitely give it a shot. I just pull the IMDb page so I don't forget about it.
Have you started watching Bodies yet? I recommended that to you on Netflix also.
No, it is on my list, but you keep recommending good things and it just keeps going to the top of the list and pushing everything back down.
I finished Bodies, and it was they left it so that they can do a second season, but they really did a good job of wrapping up the existing storyline. So I would still recommend it. It gets a little shaky around episode 6, but then 7 and 8 are solid.
What were you watching on the plane, if I may ask? You mentioned earlier you were flying out of town.
I watched the 2 stand-up specials. I watched the Get Gotti.
What were you? I'm sorry, but I don't think we talked about your experience wherever you flew to.
We went to Dallas for an overnight trip. We had a work meeting there. So we flew in on Tuesday, flew back on Wednesday. And I continue not to be a fan of Dallas.
Really? I spent 24 hours in Dallas and cut out of computer training the second day so that I could run over to the book depository museum because that's the only reason I agreed to go to Dallas, was that I knew that I had to go to Dealey Plaza. Did you go to Dealey Plaza while you were there?
I did not have time to do that. I think my gripe with Dallas is that it looks like if you wanted to build and design just generic downtown, generic suburbs, generic retail centers, that would be like if you did not know you were in Dallas and they dropped you into these locations, you would have no idea you were in the South. You would have no idea you're in Texas. You have no idea you're in Dallas. Like, it's just very bland, concrete. Bleh.
How was the food?
The food wasn't bad. We went to a Spanish tapas place for dinner, which was actually very good.
What kind of tapas did you have?
I had some. They had paella. It was paella night, so we had some mixed seafood paella. We had, what the hell did we have? It was a lot of cervezas. We had some spicy potatoes. We had some calamari.
Tell me, did you have any Shiner Bock beer?
I did not. No, I was drinking Dallas Blonde. It was a local beer that I was drinking. That was pretty good.
Let me ask you, if you were drinking a Dallas Blonde, let me ask you, was she a cheerleader? You know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
buddy.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Anyway, Brian, we're almost at the top of the hour. So we would be
my goodness,
remiss if we did
people.
not mention that we were going to have our Patreon episode at 9:30.
We do.
This is for our
Yes.
folks subscribing at the bronze level or higher. If you go to ronandbrianpodcast.com, click in the upper right-hand corner, you can join and you can get extra content. And why wouldn't you? Because it's really fantastic what we've been doing here.
Listen, it is, people say, how can we sit there and thank you? I know, Ron, you're more humble than I am. You sat there and say, listen, just being a subscriber to the show, just listening once a week, just watching, that's enough. That's enough for you. That puts a smile on your face, makes it all worth it for you. However, I am a little bit more pragmatic, and I understand that this show is not free. It may be free for you as the viewing public. You can just jump on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. You can watch this episode for free. However, there's a back end. Just like that time that I went to the bar on Christopher Street back in 1977.
You've got quite the back end, my friend.
Ooh, that was a back end, my friend. There's a back end. This service that we're paying for is not free. The web hosting, not free. All the merch that we have sitting in boxes collecting dust, not free. We'd love to sell it to you, but nobody's buying it. Go to our web store, by the way. Click on the link on our website. You go to a web store. Magnets, hats, stickers, shot glasses. You can get a Ron lapel pin. Well, you can wear, enough wearing in the American flag. We've all had that.
It's overdone.
It's a little Ron. I call it Coffee Nook Ron. One of my proudest photos of Ron. You can get a little lapel pin. Anywho, join our Patreon for as little as $5 a month. You get the audio version of a bonus content. We put it behind the paywall. It's stuff that that YouTube does not want to host.
Nope.
Facebook does not feel comfortable. They have something called community standards, which we don't want to have to stick to. So, you're going to get some spicy stories. Yes, you're going to get some sexy stories. Sometimes, depending on how much we drink, you're going to get some personal stories. Last week, Ron, I think we spent the whole after dark talking about your vacation to Mexico.
Very possible.
Stuff that did not belong out in the world. You spoke about the encounter you had with the flamenco dancer. I believe his name was Manuel. That's stuff that the general public doesn't need to know. But if you are a Patreon subscriber and you are helping support this show for as little as $5 a month, go to patreon.com/The Ron and Brian Podcast, or go to our website,
ronandbrianpodcast.com.
Click on the link. Ron, I know you want to get going. I can see it.
I don't want to get
antsy.
I want to jump back to Billy's comment. He asked me if I had any tortillas with the tapas. I did not have any tortillas that night.
It's a shame. There's something also I did want to talk about before we go, and that is the upcoming championship debate. Currently, listen, it is, I would be, a word you like to use, Ron, I would be remiss if I did not remind everybody, no, don't look away, you little bitch. I want you, oh yeah, I think the scotch has kicked in. Do not look away as I wrap myself in the championship belt that has been in my possession for the last, I'm going to say 11 months or 10, almost
9 months.
Actually, more like 9. Yeah. It is, it's 6 pounds of gold. Listen to that. Solid metal, precious metals, if you would. Once a year, Ron, you and I place a bet on the Super Bowl. It's the one opportunity where instead of just picking our locks of the week, we go head to head, mano a mano, cabeza y cabeza. And the winner of our Super Bowl bet becomes the champion of the podcast. 51% ownership. Every year, 2% is transferred to the winner of the bet. This year will be our 17th year that we have done this. You were the champion for a year. You had it. You lost this past year when you decided to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs. We all remember they had an incredible Super Bowl this past year. If I remember correctly, you fled the country to avoid handing off the championship belt. However, you eventually wisened up. I believe your wife spoke to you and talked some sense into you. But this year, we're going to do that a little bit differently. We are going to have a debate the week prior to the Super Bowl. This episode, February 4th, the Ron and Brian podcast will have a championship debate. We have already, you submitted a list of moderators that you would be acceptable to. I submitted my list. I was very surprised that you had Benjamin Netanyahu on your list. I felt you had a lot of things going on. You rejected my Vladimir Putin. You did not think that was appropriate. But we have agreed. There was one name on your list, was on my list as a moderator. We have selected. The moderator has agreed to come on the show, moderate the debate. You will be putting forth what can only become a far right dystopian nightmare of what your return to the championship shall be. What it would look like to the fans, to our Patreon friends. I am prepared to highlight the accomplishments that we have had over the past year, how the world and our podcast universe has improved, has gotten better over the past year, and that we need to ensure that for the stability of the show, that I remain champion. I maintain my championship, that this belt stays.
I will tell the full story about Brian. You talk about how you one of your choices for moderator was Vladimir Putin. You failed to mention that your other choice was Mahmoud Khaled Zahar, of course, one of the senior members of Hamas. Very tone deaf in my mind. But you and I, we will duke it out verbally on Sunday, February 4th.
My man. Yes.
Mahmoud.
It's going to be what was his name?
Mahmoud.
Oh yeah. Mahmoud. Listen, Mahmoud and I, we went to elementary school together. He sat behind me. His last name was something. And what I remember most was the fact that during recess, I was a big fan of the monkey bars, swinging left to right. And he would sit there, always one rung behind me, just making sure that I stayed on pace. And I was just like, listen, Mahmoud, slow down. You're pressuring me. I believe I was about 7 at the time. And he was just like, listen, when I join ISIS later on in my life, I need a good set of monkey bars. So I'm practicing now. Brian, have you ever thought about taping a suicide belt to your vest and blowing yourself up? And I was like, Mahmoud, listen, I'm still trying to learn how to, use paste. You're talking glue. Come on, kid. Just some great times.
Regardless, it's good to know that Brian's been swinging since a young age. We appreciate you guys joining us this week. If you are Patreon subscribers, we will be talking to you again in 21 minutes. If you want to join the After Dark, you've got time. You can go to ronandbrianpodcast.com. You can subscribe to the Patreon. We will get the link out to you. Brian, anything else before we wrap this show up this week?
I'm a little concerned about your posture, Ron.
Why?
A little concerned.
Why is that?
Because if it feels like you're leaning a little bit more to your left than you should, as if like, you need something to counterbalance the, oh, I'm sorry. Now I realize what's on my shoulders that's missing from yours. And that's right. It's the championship belt. And I'm the champion right now. I will be your champion.
Now you are.
at least through February 10th. And on February 11th, I will still be your champion. But don't forget, February 4th, we are having our championship debate.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you all for joining us for episode 280. We wish everybody out there a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Enjoy yourselves, indulge, think of those who have
Always.
less, and do good for each other. Just try and be
Always.
best. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will catch you again next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com. See you again next week.